felt that this year when I tried to step into my passion, I really tried to open to it and to like have some balls by actually just dropping what I was doing and starting doing what I loved. And I just felt like when I started doing it, it was okay to start with, and then it just stopped. And I just felt like there's an emotion within me of not finishing things, because I don't feel that if I do it, it won't be any good, I guess. And I guess maybe that is the main emotion, but I love writing, and I feel very expressive when I write, and painting and drawing, and also working with children I feel really passionately about. And I've done all three of those things this year.
Yep.
But I feel like they haven't taken me anywhere.
Well, the thing to remember about your desires, the beauty of following them is you'll follow them and you'll get to a point of stagnation when you're following them, every single time. So what will happen is you'll recognise what passion you have, and you'll recognise a desire, and then you'll embrace it, and it will go all right for a certain period of time, and then it will just like stop, stagnate. Whenever anything stagnates in your life, it's always because of fear. It's always because of an unresolved emotion that's not getting resolved now. Does that make sense? So whenever we find any of our passions and desires no longer growing, no longer changing automatically, no longer growing, it's because we are now not embracing the other emotions that our desire is triggering.
So that's God's loving provision, the law of attraction, to bring us, okay, I've hit a wall, there must be an emotion blocking me, something out of harmony with love.
So if you for a moment just feel about, all right, what were the emotions? So for instance, let's say the desire to teach children that you have. What were the emotions you felt initially when you felt that desire? Can you remember?
That it's so important for children to know the truth and
Yes.
to be given the opportunity.
Yeah.
But I guess I feel like...
Anything else though that these are things you felt, that's more about what the children should be given. I mean, what did you feel when you were teaching children? What was the feelings you had inside of you?
I wanted them to have what I didn't have. Like I wanted to give them an opportunity.
Right, can you see that is a imposition upon them? So therefore the desire is not now, so you engaged the desire, but part of engaging the desire is now an emotional error has been exposed. Now, what I would do with that error is I'd go and grieve the fact that I didn't get this. Does that make sense? Mm. And when you fully grieve that, now the desire will be present again, but it will be without that emotion being pushed upon the children. Do you follow me? Now, when we're not willing to deal with that emotion, we'll go into stagnation. In other words, the children around us will feel, oh, she's trying to force me to learn something I don't want to learn. You know, the child will feel things from you and then resist the process of learning as a result. And then we feel like, oh, things are not going as good as what I expected, and not realising that it's because we have refused to deal with that particular emotion that was exposed. Do you follow me, Fee? So the key with following your desires is to follow your desire, and when you follow your desire, you will definitely find that a particular emotion will be exposed. An impure emotion, if you like, an unloving emotion will be exposed. And as to what happens with our desire after that point is going to be very dependent upon us dealing with that particular emotion right now. If we refuse to deal with the emotion right now and we close it down, we will find the desire will go down, because now we're in a state where we're afraid of the emotion, right? So our desire will go down and nothing around us will work. Automatically, nothing around us will work. So whenever anything in my life stagnates now, the first thing I question is, all right, right at this point, I must have an impure desire of some kind, because otherwise my life will never stagnate. It will always continue to grow. So if you can trust that and then go, okay, well, what is the feeling inside of me that caused me to stop this process of embracing my desires, you will always identify a feeling. When you identify the feeling, it's your willingness to feel that feeling that is going to depend upon the future of that desire now. If you're unwilling to feel the feeling, the desire now will be suppressed. If you're willing to feel the feeling and embrace it, the desire will grow automatically further. And it might change in the sense that it will definitely change into a more loving desire every single time. That's the beauty of following your desires. So what we're finding happening a lot is that, and Mary's found this a lot when she was talking with the Opening to God workshops with people, they'd follow desire to a certain point, then an emotion gets triggered on that desire, an emotion that's where the desire is out of harmony with love, and the person is unwilling to feel that emotion. And because of their unwillingness to feel the emotion, the desire now cannot grow further. It is going to stagnate, or it's going to go down again. Does that make sense? And that's what's happening for yourself a lot, where you follow a desire and then an emotion gets triggered. You don't want to feel that emotion. So now what's going to happen with the desire? You're not going to feel the desire very strongly either. That's the subsequent result of suppressing ourselves emotionally. So it's your fear of feeling your emotions that causes your desire then to be suppressed. Yeah? And if you can allow yourself, rather than to live in that fear, to feel the fear through, rather than living in it, and then let yourself feel the unloving emotion or unloving feeling underneath that, because there's always one that's going to be unloving underneath that, then what will happen is your desire will grow rather than stagnate or die. Yeah.
It's not just your desire that grows. It's actually your,
Everything.
as you know, your connection with God, your personal development in love, all grows as long as you stay. And this is the definition that we developed for the Opening to God workshop of God reliance. It was following your passions and desires, as long as you believe them to be in harmony with love. Obviously, if you have a desire that you go, yeah, okay, that's not loving.
So if you have a desire to go out and murder somebody, that's not very harmonious with love. So don't follow that desire, right?
So the first aspect was following your passions and desires. In order to become reliant on God, we must do this.
So if we can clarify, the passions and desires should be harmonious with love if we're going to grow.
We must believe they are. Through this
You
process...
don't have to know for certain.
Obviously, we're not perfected in love. There's going to be some injury within us. But we have to at least reflect. Does this feel loving to me in my state right now? Yep, okay, it does. I'm going to step into it. But I'm going to be humble to the fact that I must be humble in this process. And be humble to the fact that God's law of attraction will bring me the things that will highlight the error within my desire, highlight what's not loving within my desire. And
so if I can give you an example with regard to teaching children. So teaching children, you have a passion and desire to teach the child. So you're following your passion and desire. And initially you think that this desire is harmonious with love. That's the feeling you have, so you go for it. When you go for it, you're sitting down with the child and the child starts yelling at you. Now, there's a law of attraction event now. Does that make sense? A child is generally always reflecting an adult's unhealed emotion. So I've got this child yelling at me. What's going on here? Doesn't feel very good anymore, my desire, right? Having child after child after child get upset with me because I'm trying to teach it something. I would then have to be humble and go, there's something wrong with what I'm doing with my teaching. Because if I was teaching with an open heart and with love, I wouldn't have these children yelling at me all the time, right? Or it could be that the children were getting spirit overcloaked and, you see their eyes change and you see, and they start sort of attacking you through that space, and you're a bit afraid of them. You're a bit freaked out. And you go, whoa, this child's a bit out there. Well, there's another thing. My law of attraction is showing me, I'm afraid of spirits and overcloaking. And can you see? So the law of attraction is showing me something that's going to interfere with this desire that I have. So I need to be humble to it, to the feeling.
There was a situation, just to throw this in, I was reading with a child and have difficulty learning how to read. And it was beautiful and he was doing really well. And then I suddenly heard his mother talking to me, who died a couple of years ago. Yeah. And she was really upset and crying. And I could feel this sadness from her. Yeah. And it freaked me out because I don't normally hear it that clearly.
Yep.
And she was saying, oh, it's so wonderful that you're reading with my son. I wish I could be doing it, and thank you so much. But she felt kind of like she was projecting so much sadness.
Yeah.
I was drenched in it, and obviously Miles was picking it up, and he's very mediumistic.
Yeah.
And I just thought, wow, and I got so sad about it. And I got home and I tried talking to her when I got home, and talked to her for her quite a long time. But then that really kicked off all these things about my son's so mediumistic, and so many children are naturally, to make children aware of what's going on. But then that just seems like such a huge subject.
It is.
And is that too much to put on a child to let them know?
No, most children already know without you telling them anyway.
Yeah, true.
So usually it's a confirmation of what they already know anyway.
Yeah.
But my suggestion is, again, if you look at the series of events here, what was happening is you had some spirit interaction, and you've become confused about what to do with that interaction. So that's an emotion, isn't it? Like an emotion of confusion is an emotion of what are you confused about? Can you see that if you embrace telling children about spirits, what's going to happen with the school that you're visiting or whatever? What are they going to do?
Yeah, they'll just think I'm mad.
Exactly. So they'll be quite upset perhaps, but you think you're mad and so forth. So can you see it's fear of authority and what they will think of you embracing their passion along that direction is automatically now infecting the desire. Do you follow me? Now, how do you deal with that fear? You have to actually feel it, embrace it. What you're doing, though, with it is going, no school's going to let me talk to about spirits or anything to little children in particular, and I'll have parents at my throat, and I'll have, all of these different things going. So it's best for me to forget about it. Suppress the desire, forget about it. Does that make sense? And so if we're humble here, you would have processed some more emotion about those things.
Even this a sense
for
of
yourself.
desperation. I can't teach the truth. Kids can never know the truth. I never knew the truth. Immediately you're back in your causal emotion again.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The key is to feel
one's emotions. But we must have this crucial other element, which is a desire, sorry for my handwriting, to know
that and then proceed along your desire again.
Yeah.
Right? With embracing that emotion. What we often do though is we feel that, we get afraid, we shut that all down, and so now we're not God reliant anymore, and we're also not following our passions and desires, so we're not enjoying anything anymore either.
God's truth in every circumstance. So I'm following my desires and passions. I get a law of attraction event that brings up something within me that feels yucky.
Some emotion I have to feel.
So I need to be humble to that experience the grief or the anger or the fear or whatever is being triggered. But simultaneously, I must hold in my heart this desire to know what is God's truth of this situation. Am I in error? Is this situation in error? What's actually truly happening here? Because that's the only thing that's going to expose the error within myself. Because my truth, remember, is because of my injured state, it's very different from God's truth of the situation.
So maybe we can give an example again of that. So when we hit this part here, we might find we have some fear come up. So for example, you're speaking with the child, you have a spirit speaking to you now, and now what do you do with this? Like you go home to try to talk to that spirit, but you can feel all of her grief about why she's so invested in the child and she's not letting go of the child. And can you feel there's a lot of your own grief about children and letting go of, trusting that God loves them rather than you having to do all of that. So there's a lot about letting go of children in there, losing a child in there for you. So in that moment, fear comes up, and then under that fear is that grief that you're just starting to connect to a bit there, Fee. So that grief is present, and then there's fear on top of it, right? Now, when I'm in that space, I might choose to hold on to my fear. So in other words, I don't want to know God's truth, and that is there's nothing to fear here. God's truth is there's nothing to fear here. I want to justify my fear to myself. I should be afraid of losing my child. These things could happen with my child that would cause me to lose my child. I have to be afraid of losing my child. So now what I'm doing is I'm justifying myself holding on to the error